The pj-fleck-show is presented by Window Concepts and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union.
Our how is everything. How you do something matters. Culture, how, next time mentality. That better be first.
The pj-fleck-show starts now.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of the pj-fleck-show, joined as always by the head coach of Gopher football, PJ Fleck, alongside former Gopher wide receiver Ron Johnson, KFAN's Justin Gaard. He loves it when I intro him like that every time. People got to know.
Well, I thought you stuttered, though. That's
I did stutter a little bit. Thank you very much. I second-guessed myself for just a second.
Well, we can just read all your clothes in your backpack if he doesn't say that you played in the NFL.
I'll correct.
We'll just read all your shirt. Yeah, that's what I mean.
I just need some Gopher,
we'll just read his stuff.
Gopher, give me some Gopher gear. Just give me like the T-shirt, the
Well,
shorts.
you're looking at the wrong guy for that.
Fox can get it.
The guy on your left probably has
That's what I'm saying. Fox has a credit card. Let's go in Goldie's locker room. Let's get us geared up for the show.
If Fox has a credit card, I'd love to see it one day. I mean, that'd be
By the way,
awesome.
start introing me first because I'm the loser of this group. KFAN Radio, former NFL Gopher head coach. Can't build up to me.
Should go
build
down
up,
the line?
Build up to the head
We're
coach.
adjusting
Take
on the
two.
fly here on the PJ Fleck Show.
Let's just keep going. This is great. That way we don't have to talk about the game.
Well, I mean, as we transition now to talking about football, PJ, you did mention after the game, felt like a tale of two halves against Iowa. Walk us through what happened in the second half. Again, now that you've had a couple of days to break things down with the team and film, what stood out to you from that change from the first half to the second half?
Well, first of all, the job of the head football coach is to be able to get the most out of your players for 60 minutes, and failed to do that. So 100% falls on me. We created way too much space on defense in the second half. And, we talk about shooting your shot, go tackle, get in the hole, go get him on the ground. We were hesitant. We were waiting for him to come to us in the second half. We weren't in the first half. And not sure why that happened, but it did. And by the time it happened, we were down a few scores. And next thing you know, we weren't getting a lot of things going on offense. And it was kind of a perfect storm that way. So you got to be really consistent when you play against Iowa. You have to be to have success, and we weren't for 60 minutes.
Yeah, and looking at Michigan, they have two good running backs as well. When you see that, 3 touchdowns, you talk about the space and guys not coming up. What is the plan? Like, how do you watch that film and say, here's what we did wrong in the second half, here's how we stopped Michigan?
Well, you got to go back to why didn't we stop the run in the second half? Way too much space. We didn't shoot our shot. The tackling circuit not being used. Not setting the edge, letting the edge be able to be extended out. We set the edge really well in the first half. We did not set the edge in the second half, which creates more space. If you violently set the edge and turn everything back inside, then you can be able to let the swarm happen. If you set the edge, you take your shot, and you happen to miss, there's way more people surrounding the football. We did it in the first half. We didn't do it in the second half. And I wish that we would have done it in the second half because I think it would have been a different story because we showed that we could do it in the first half. But, it's unfortunate. But, our guys responded really well this week, and they know why. And the good thing is, once you know why, now you have a chance to be able to fix it, and you have a chance to be able to make it better. And that's a sign of a good team, is taking when it doesn't go so well, can you fix it? And our team's had a good week of practice.
What's the key to creating more space for your own running backs and running the ball a little bit more efficiently?
Finishing blocks, being able to get more movement up front on double teams, and then being able to extend those plays out a little bit more, being a little bit more patient and let it all happen and stay on course. But, I think we got outplayed. And that's a head coach's job, is to make sure that your team doesn't get outplayed. We got to play outplayed in the second half, and I think that showed even us running the football in the second half.
When it comes to Max Brosmer, he's progressed each and every week. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against Iowa. How would you evaluate his play in the game, and where do you think he's at now through the first 4 weeks?
Well, I think when you look at the 2 interceptions he had this week, these aren't bonehead mistakes thrown to the defense. Right. I mean, we have a little bit of a zig and a zag, and I thought you were breaking out and staying, and I thought I was staying and breaking out. That was a little miscommunication, and he threw it low enough to be able to throw it away, but the kid made a really good play. And then the other one's tipped, and we got to be able to make contested catches. But listen, I believe in him wholeheartedly. I trust him wholeheartedly. I have his back no matter what. I mean, he has brought so much life to our program and done so many great things in the past game, and is such a great leader. So, again, there's going to be certain things we got to be able to overcome. You cannot turn the ball over when you're playing Iowa. And again, when you look at the 2 turnovers, it's not like, okay, those were just dumb plays, dumb mistakes, bad reads. They weren't. One's a tip ball. One's a little miscommunication that the kid makes a really good play on. Those are the ones you have to be able to live with, but you can't do those against Iowa or they're going to beat you.
And looking at injuries, we know Justin Wiley was out. We know Aiden Gooseby kind of got injured. Yep. What is the status of those two guys heading into this week against Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, they're both at practice and both doing a really good job of working their way back in. But the injury report comes out 2 hours before kickoff.
That's one of the best jokes in the Big Ten Conference right now.
Well, I mean,
you play the hits, right?
Well, it's a rule, right? And they have a rule so we can be able to say that, but then everybody wants to know. It's like an NFL head coach talking about who's going to be out. They'll let you know right before kickoff when it's mandated.
My challenge for you is, can you say 2-hour availability report without smiling? Can you say it more stern? Not now, not today. Next week when you're asked about injuries or whatever.
I was going to give it a heck of a shot.
We'll do
this
it again next week, I'm
right
sure.
In the camera.
Yeah, the next time. Yeah, actually.
You know what? Do it. Give it to him. Let's see. Actor PJ.
The 2-hour availability report. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, with sound effects and everything.
No
Perfect.
smiling.
That was pretty good.
Very good. Yeah, that was pretty good.
I got a future.
You accompany it with
no
the
doubt.
smile. It always cracks me up because we all know. Still have to ask though, right?
Yeah.
We still do. Leadership. You mentioned Max Brosmer, taking control of this team since he got here back in December, basically, and met you guys at Ford Field for the bowl game. Who are the leaders of this team, that come in on Sunday and mimic the message that's coming from you that we got to put this one past us and we got to move forward?
Yeah, the Justin Walleys, the Cody Lindenbergs, some of the Danny Strigows of the world, the Quinn Carrolls on offense, the Daniel Jacksons, and Darius Taylor. I mean, this team loves football and they care about each other. They're fun to coach. They're fun to even come back in and go back to work and really have hard conversations. I mean, nobody wants to sit there and talk about a loss, but that's when you learn the most. I really believe that. And they're all ears. They're attentive. They're intentional about being there, and that pays off.
I know you're not on social media. I go on social media to, absorb the vitriol just so you don't have to, just for the sake of this show. But I do need to point out one play from the game against Iowa that I think merits a little bit of a conversation. It's a 3rd and 10 from your own 21 late in the third quarter with under 30 seconds to go. You go pass, both pass fall incomplete, and then you run on 3rd and 10. There was a little bit of an uproar on social media about that play. Walk us through the decision to run on 3rd and 10 on that particular play when you're down 10, trying to get back in the game.
Few things. One, Iowa has a 3rd and 10, and they run the ball and score a touchdown. Mm-hmm. You can run the ball on 3rd down to get a first down. There's no rule saying you can't do that, and we've done it very well in the past, running on 3rd and long and getting first downs. So that's the first thing. Second of all, we wanted to at least get the ball, go into the fourth quarter. We had the wind in our face. I didn't want to punt with the wind in our face. I wanted the wind at our back. There were 25-mile-an-hour gusts. If we punt into the wind and throw it again, and it is incomplete, we had just as good a shot of running the ball in the defense they had, as much as passing the football in there. And we just passed it twice for 2 incompletions.
Right.
They're thinking pass. We run it, which we've done in the past, get a first down. Second, keeps the clock moving, gets us to the fourth quarter where I can actually punt with the win. So we're either going to run it on 1st, run it on 2nd, or run it on 3rd. That was the call in the headset. We got to run the ball one of these 3. Let's make the call which one we actually want to run it on. We passed the first 2 and didn't get it completed, but we were going to run the ball in one of those 3 to get the ball to the fourth quarter, to get the clock to the fourth quarter. So that's the explanation. People don't have to like it. But that's the explanation for it, because Iowa does a really good job of field position. If we don't have a very good punt into the wind and it's a 25, 30-yard punt, they get the ball at midfield. Even if they don't get a first down, they pin you back down, and then you got to go 90-some yards with not a lot of time left to be able to catch up from 10 points down. So there's a lot of decisions that you're making, but we've ran it on 3rd and 20 and got a first down.
Sure.
So running the ball on 3rd down, no matter what, is a good play. I just think a normal fan assumes on 3rd and 10 we're going to pass the ball. So I'm not saying a punt is a bad play. Punt's not a bad play. A takeaway is a bad play. A turnover is a bad play. So we were showing what we could do. We had 2 incompletions. We had to run the ball on one of those 3 plays, and we chose to pass, and the rules still stood. You got to run the ball on one of these.
You didn't change your mind.
I did not change my mind. Not at all.
For all the fans on the fan boards and the message board and all that, now you have it. There's your answer right
Yeah, that's
there.
not going to make anybody feel any better. They're going to talk about that. That's a horrible decision.
You never know. Might be some tweets after this show tonight, and they'll be like, oh, you know what? I was wrong. Like, I don't know what coaching. Because
you know what,
seriously,
I'll
people
sleep better.
Because I'm gonna find some people. I'm gonna find some people to do that just so you can sleep better. But because I do know what you're talking about. Because you see that in the NFL every Sunday. People question screens on third down. People question draws on third down. Right.
Great plays on third down.
It's a lot of things that, and if the guy breaks it, then the defensive coordinator's like, oh crap, I was hoping for a pass. And so
Iowa scored a touchdown to make it 14-14 on a 3rd and 10, and they broke one tackle, and we had a good pass defense. They ran the football. We didn't get it on the ground. Next thing you know, touchdown.
As a receiver, I appreciate 2 straight passes. So you had my vote there. But
glad we can make Ron happy.
But looking at Kerry Brown, leading the team in tackles right now, having a great season. What has he shown? Because he's young. I mean, he's not young and like he's been here. Been in football
freshman. He's young.
Yeah. But 4 years of football left, so very young, but knows a little bit. But what has he proven in these early moments to show he deserves these moments now?
Well, I think he's shown that nothing's too big for him. No matter if you're a redshirt freshman, a true freshman, a senior. I mean, can you go out there and function within the defense and then go make plays at a high level? And he has. But if you know him and you know the type of, if you know his mother, then which you don't, but I do, this kid's fearless. He's not the biggest guy in the world, so his entire upbringing he's had to prove himself to other people, prove himself to himself all the time, and he's got a very loving mother who's been pretty tough on him his entire life, and all he's done is overcome and overachieve, and he's doing the same thing for the Gophers right now.
Yeah, he's certainly playing really good football for the Gophers right now. When we come back, we'll speak to another member of the team who's playing really good football as well. Wide receiver Daniel Jackson joins us on set. You don't want to miss that conversation coming up next on the PJ Fleck Show.
You're watching the PJ Fleck Show.
Thanks for staying with us, everybody. Special guest now joining us on set, a young man who doesn't need much of an introduction, really, but wide receiver Daniel Jackson joining us on set now. Daniel, we appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for joining us.
No, yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. No, good to be with you again. When you have a game that in the way that you guys had against Iowa, with the result not being what you wanted, as a leader of the team, what did you say to the guys in the locker room after the game and in practice so far this week to kind of regroup and get you guys back on the same track to go against Michigan?
Yeah, right after the game, we get together as receivers, and kind of just after Coach Simon got to speak to us, just saying like whatever we did, it wasn't enough, and just kind of seeing how that the game played out just makes us drive and hungrier to do more and this unrequired, and just so we can have a better output on the field. So
yeah.
And we met before the week and we talked about big games, big moments, and 9 catches, 112 yards was a big moment. So what led up to that and what attributed to this week being your week?
I just really think just being consistent within the unrequired work, just sticking to it, even though you may not get the result automatically, just sticking to it and continuing to trust the process, and truly the results will come.
Yeah, and PJ, when you look at Daniel, I mean, how have you seen him grow into not just being a great receiver, but a complete receiver the way he is?
Yeah, I think his maturity has gone through the roof, and we define maturity as when doing what you have to do becomes doing what you want to do, and I think he's grown up a lot in his years in college, and he's got to watch and learn from some really good receivers and learn how to be able to do it our way and our systematic approach of developing receivers, and I think he's really developed into a really good leader in the room, way more vocal than he used to be. And he used to just kind of lead by example, and it's been really refreshing to watch him kind of come out of his shell and be able to lead more vocally this year than he ever has, and his performance is continuing to be very consistent on the field, and nobody works harder in practice than Daniel, and I think that's the legacy he's going to continue to leave that room.
Yeah, and I talked to Makari Page, is my cousin from Michigan, number 7 to safety, and so when I text him, I usually ask him that, like what on film to the Gophers do you and Will Johnson, because Will Johnson, another Detroit kid I know, and first thing they say is, yeah, that number 9, we got to make sure we keep him in front of us. So when you hear stuff like that and teams are looking for you, how do you tell your teammates, hey, this might be your time. If I'm running this route, this is when you can be open?
I mean, you never know. Like, as I was saying, you never know what defenses they're going to call, but you always know there's certain keys of defensive schemes, and you can see maybe a little bit early on that some teams would key in a little too high or a little shelled towards my side, but that opened up great opportunities for a bunch of my teammates. You see LeMahieu Brockington making plays that aren't even really scripted to make plays, but he's making plays out there, and Elijah Spencer continuing to make plays. Even young guys, Tyler Williams coming in making plays, Christian Driver. So all these guys are able to step up and make the plays when their number is called.
Yeah, and Coach, when you look at Charles Woodson was there, now Will Johnson is the next line to wear that number 2. What threat does Michigan pose when you look at them as a defense or as a team as a whole?
Well, they got 4 first-rounders just on that defense, and they're starting 11. They're really good. They're long. They're big, strong. They're 2 inside guys. They're almost immovable forces. I mean, it's really hard to be able to get them where to get them to go where you want them to go. They're so quick and agile, but so big at the same time. They got 2 really good defensive ends. Linebackers are great tacklers and long. And then you just talked about Will Johnson in the secondary, and he's just one of them. They're all big. They're all long. When you have a corner that's 6'3", and can run like the wind and hit you like a linebacker, you've got to be able to find ways to be able to continue to move the ball down the field. But our guys do a good job of creating space in man coverage. They do a really good job of creating space in the way that their break points are being ran. And we got to find ways to be able to get them the football for sure and let our playmakers go against their playmakers.
We need to point out that with that 112-yard performance against Iowa, Daniel, I'm sure you know by now, but the fans maybe don't know that Daniel Jackson now surpassed 2,000 receiving yards here at the University of Minnesota. PJ just mentioned a moment ago, you got to learn from some guys. Rashad Bateman, Tyler Johnson, Chris Ottman-Bell.
Right.
Now you join them in that elite group. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, those are my brothers. It's truly an honor. All of them congratulated me on my achievement, and seeing that and being Ron Johnson, the same here. Like you feel me? Being under a top 10 receiver under this program and this team name, it's amazing to be that, especially with Tyler, Crab, and Rashad Bateman all being there before me. So
Yeah.
And I can prove, like, I was on K-Fan while
he did love that you just gave me.
Yeah.
That's why he asked the question. Ron only asked a question so Ron's name would come up.
For those that were listening to K-Fan, the fan line, when Rashad Bateman caught his touchdown, I was actually on air saying, I was like, you know what, the way this set is, I was like, Rashad in the slot is probably coming to him. He catches a touchdown. I know you guys get a chance to see those highlights in those NFL games. When you see a guy like that, you know him, you've seen him play, you see him at that level, does that give you a little bit of like, you know what, I can do that too?
Right. You just, first off, you're extremely happy for the guy. And yeah, you see the guy that I played in a few months with Rashad, and to be able to see him out in this field and then making plays out in the league is truly inspirational. So.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Daniel, we certainly appreciate you taking the time. You've always been very gracious with your time here on the PJ-Fleck-Show, on the Gopher Pregame Show. We thank you again.
Unlike Mo Ibrahim. Mo Ibrahim finally just came for the first time. So you're on top of Mo already.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Mo.
Shout out Mo, absolutely.
Coach Mo.
Daniel, thanks again. Best of luck this week against Michigan.
Thank you.
So much more to come here on not the Gopher Pregame Show, but the PJ-Fleck Show, rather. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit more about Michigan on the other side of the break. What makes the Wolverines so dangerous? We'll discuss that coming up next here on the PJ-Fleck Show.
Welcome back to the PJ-Fleck Show.
Thanks for staying with us here on the PJ-Fleck Show. Time now to take a look across the field and talk about Saturday's opponent. For the first time this season, Minnesota hits the road as they take on Michigan. PJ, certainly a formidable opponent. They are the defending national champions, even though they look a little bit different this year. Coming off a big win against USC, what are your thoughts on the Michigan Wolverines?
I'm not sure how much different they look. I think there's a narrative out there that they look a lot different. I mean, they have 4 first-rounders on their defense. Their offensive line is completely restructured, but they look very similar. They got 2 running backs that are over 220 pounds. They got a quarterback who's huge. They run the football really effectively. They got really good tight ends. They're pretty efficient in what they do and how they do it. And they dictate the pace of the game and how it's going to go to the opponents they've played. They did play Texas, who's the #1 team in the country, but you can really flip a coin with 10 teams in the country of when they play each other, who's going to win. This is a really good football team. We're going into Ann Arbor and know we got to be able to play our best football game of the year, period.
And you look at Khalil Mulling, Khalil Mullings coming in this, everybody thought it was going to be Donovan Edwards' show, and now they have another running back that stepped in and showed he can go for 100 yards plus. When we talked about this earlier, but other than those 2 guys, how do you affect even the offensive line? Because it starts there. It's not just the running backs. The offensive line gets it started. How do you kind of deal with that offensive line and then making sure your guys are shooting those gaps and are taking those chances to get to the running back?
Well, we use our hands really well and we violently disengage. When we can make plays on the D-line, we're at our best. When we kind of do it our own way or we get away from our techniques and fundamentals and we want to just go ahead and hook it, we're not as good. Not only that, we saw what not shooting your shot looks like in the second half of Iowa. We've got to tackle way better. And if we go shoot our shot and not hesitate, it's going to allow everybody else to swarm around there. The running back's going to have to stop, change course, move, and lose his momentum moving forward, and that's when everybody can swarm in. We didn't allow that to even happen in the second half of Iowa. We've got to make sure that happens throughout the whole game in Michigan, or it'll be a long day.
Is number 2 Will Johnson one of those first-round picks on the defense that you speak of?
Well, I think that I could pretty much go out on a limb and say
Mel
yes.
Kiper?
Yeah, Mel Kiper. I mean, I will probably
3 career
say,
pick sixes. It seems like he's pretty good. I mean, what makes him good?
He's just got he's got a great feel for the game. He anticipates really well. He understands wide receiver body language. He knows where he fits within the defensive call. He knows he knows the edge he can walk on. And he knows that line. He knows when to cross it, when not to cross it. He's very instinctual like this play. I mean, that's a first-round corner right there. That's what it looks like.
And when you look at him and Travis Hunter, what are the differences of those two when you talk about NFL bodies?
I mean, they're both really talented. I haven't necessarily evaluated them to a point where I can sit there and give you the Mel Kiper report. I just know I know one of them more than the other, and this kid is really, really talented. And you better be really, really careful when you're throwing his way. You better know where he is at all times, because he's not only a really good cover guy. I mean, he can come up and tackle. He's long. I mean, he's 6'3" corner. When you're 6'3" and you're playing corner and you hit like a linebacker, but you cover like a true corner, a lockdown corner, you're going to play football a long time.
We got about a minute left here in the show, but PJ, I want to get your thoughts real quick. I mean, it's such a unique place to play. It's almost 110,000 people. When you play in an environment like that, how do you calm the nerves early for this team?
Well, I think there's a difference between nerves and anxiety, and then there's anticipation and excitement. You got to be able to get the nerves out in practice. In practice is when you shouldn't be very good at the plays that you've installed, because you're practicing them. Right? You should be able to perfect them by the time you get to Saturday. We put a ton of crowd noise around our players, a ton of walk around speakers. We got push speakers. I mean, we have made it louder probably than we ever have any single game. And they definitely know hail to the victor, that's for sure. They've heard that about a billion times, as well as our student population across the street.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's his show, everybody. Don't mess with it, that's for sure. We'll see you next week on the PJ Fleck Show. And don't forget, coming up this Saturday, we got the Gopher pregame show as we get you ready for kickoff between Minnesota and Michigan. And don't forget, that is a game you can watch right here on Fox 9. We'll see you next week for the PJ Fleck Show.